Why Israel can't wait. The coming war between Israel and Iran. It looks like he's been on the money in this one, and I hate to admit it, but it's true. Dr. Corsi, Dr. Jerome Crosi, welcome back to the Rusty Humphries Show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Great to be back on the show.
What a shock. You mean to tell me that Iran has other nuclear plants? Well, what?
Isn't that amazing? I mean, again, the announcement of that last week, and of course, the Obama administration has evidently known about this since President Obama was president-elect, and he said nothing, President Obama, in 3 speeches at the United Nations last week until it was finally revealed by Iran. And my whole point in my book, Why Israel Can't Wait, I spent 3 weeks in Israel. I interviewed all the top leadership, met with Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Perez, and I opened with General Yalon, who's the number 2 in command, the vice prime minister, and General Yalon says clearly a nuclear-armed Iran is an existential threat to the survival of Israel, and Israel's made a decision to attack Iran. Once Israeli intelligence is clear that Iran can make a bomb. So I think the clear reason why Israel worked with me on this book is Israel does not want the war to happen, but Israel's letting the world know the Obama administration's got to get serious and have a real plan in effect that has a chance of stopping Iran. Otherwise, a war is coming.
Isn't it, a worst-case scenario for Israel to have to take that out? Because if Israel attacks, boy, they're going to get nailed from all sides. They're going to get hit from Syria, every crazy jihadist from around the world is coming to Israel after that. Afghanistan's going to be empty.
I agree. And when I was in Israel, there was a 2-day civil defense alert. People were going down into the shelters, the sirens were going. It reminded me of the 1950s with the old duck and cover that we did, worried that school kids, that Soviet Union was going to attack with a nuclear attack in the United States. Israel will get clobbered with a rocket attack from Hezbollah in Lebanon, rockets supplied by Iran, from Hamas with rockets in the Gaza. When I was in Israel, I went to the Golan Heights. There's Israeli tanks on a 24-hour alert pointed into Syria. I haven't seen that in decades. It was startling to see the Israeli tanks on full battle alert. So
they had a war. Was the Yom Kippur War? Was that the last big one? You think in Israel?
Probably the last major one in '73, and an all-out war. There's been many. The 2006, the Second Lebanon War in Lebanon against Hezbollah, the Operation Cast Lead, which ended at the end of 2008. There's been lots of smaller wars.
Mm-hmm. But I ask you that because do you think Israel could handle another one of those?
Well,
there was one. You had the 6-Day War in '67. You had the Yom Kippur War in '73.
I get things from Israeli intelligence, the Israeli military, and it's very clear Israel does not want to do this war. It's going to be very costly. It's going to be very unpredictable. It's like the Samson option. Samson taking down the temple in the Bible, killing himself, but it was the only way to get the Philistines, who were the enemies in the temple. And Israel, when they're backed into a corner, Israel concludes that the Obama administration's essentially abandoned Israel to a nuclear-armed Iran. When the Netanyahu government concludes that a war is coming with Iran anyway, and Israel's a one-bomb state, cannot take the risk of even a low-yield nuclear explosion over Tel Aviv.
What do you mean a one-bomb state? Just because it's so small, it would wipe the country out?
Tel Aviv is the commercial, the banking, the telecommunications center of Israel. It's the only city in Israel that has that power. It's not like the United States, where we've got several major cities that are commercial centers and telecommunications and banking centers. Clearly New York or Washington would be crippling for the United States, but Tel Aviv would be a blow, the loss to Tel Aviv that the modern Jewish state might not recover from. And Israel can't take the risk. And that's the whole point, is that the Israelis are saying that this never again kind of mentality that led to the creation of the Jewish state is going to persist, so that Israel is not going to wait for the rest of the world to come to the defense of Israel and stop Iran when it's clear that there's the Obama administration talking to Iran is only going to prolong the time that Iran has to make a nuclear weapon and produce no results whatsoever with a regime as radical as Ahmadinejad's presidency still intact in Iran.
Dr. Jerome Corsi here on the Rusty Humphries Show. I've heard some other things, and one of them came out from WorldNet Daily, one of your services, that there may be more nuclear capability plants, nuclear plants they're building right now in Iran. Are you hearing that too?
Yes, of course. I think what the reality is that Iran has been lying, and they were called, basically Netanyahu accused Iran of being like a serial deceiver. I've written on this since I wrote Atomic Iran in 2005. And what happens is the opposition groups come out in Iran and they say, here's another nuclear establishment. The International Atomic Energy Agency says, oh, we didn't know about that one. Then it's researched and it's discovered that another secret facility exists. That's what happened on the second enrichment plant. And the International Atomic Energy Agency has a classified report on Iran's nuclear program that Mohammed El-Baradei, the outgoing director of the IAEA, refused to release. So Israel, and it was clear when Netanyahu was in New York for the United Nations meeting, Israel was saying, both at the United Nations and on the talk shows Netanyahu participated in, that this is the 11th hour. What the Israeli government told me, writing Why Israel Can't Wait, is that the attack, a preemptive military attack from Israel, could occur on Iran as late as this year, 2009, or early 2010, with or without the approval of the United States.
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks, Dr. Corsi, because there's a lot of people, whenever we talk about Israel and the Middle East, their eyes glaze over. They don't care. They don't think there's anything they should worry about. How important is it to me? Why should I care? Why is this something we need to worry about?
Well, it's a major destabilizing for the whole entire region. I mean, we have troops in both Afghanistan and Iraq in bases that could be hit even if Iran decided to have a conventional missile attack against our bases. We could have thousands of U.S. troops die. If Russia gets into a war and supports Iran, you could have an escalating regional war that could very quickly become a nuclear war, depending upon how threatened Israel felt. And if Iran was attacked and the regime survived, the Iranian regime would say, well, now we've got justifications in self-defense to get nuclear weapons. And a nuclear-armed Iran is going to be a threat to Eastern Europe. It's going to be a threat to the whole region. Even the Saudis and the Egyptians are working right now with military intelligence and the military in Israel. We just recently saw a Israeli nuclear submarine go through the Suez Canal. And as I wrote about in Why Israel Can't Wait, that could not have happened had we not had cooperation between the Israeli military and the Egyptian military. The intelligence.
So the good news is, if you look at the Yom Kippur War, those kind of things, you've got Israel working with Egypt, and you've got them working with Jordan. So maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Maybe a world war wouldn't take off if Israel attacked Iran. Or do you think they would quickly turn on them, and all of a sudden, not only do you have the Arab states, but you're going to have Russia and China jumping in?
I think Russia and China would come in to support Iran, and whether they would get involved, Russia and China, in a shooting war against Israel, that's, again, would depend on how the war developed. The problem is, it's any way you gameplay this or look through the military scenarios, it's unpredictable. And it's like 1914. A few miscalculations could take a completely local conflict and put it into a regional or even a world war. It's that much of a tinderbox.
All right, well, if you want to understand this and you don't, and you're listening to this and going, I want to get this is really important. I know it is, but I just can't get it. Then you need to pick up the book. Now, is the book in the stores right now, Dr. Corsi, or is it still the ebook?
No, the paperback is in the stores, and I still lay out how the alternatives of getting a popular uprising in Iran are not out of the question yet. Even Benjamin Netanyahu in New York last week was saying, don't think that the regime in Iran is very stable. It could be destabilized if President Obama would take the right steps of speaking out in support of the protesters who were in the streets in Tehran in June, saying that the election of Ahmadinejad was completely a stolen election. All we'd have to do is start demanding international inspection and a new election in Iran. If we put pressure on the regime, including some more economic